You've heard from Anthony and the deputy, Brian's story throughout this case. But Brian, the moment he's accused, says, I didn't do that, you're a liar. You're crazy. And it was a crazy accusation. And I think through the course of this trial, I think we've actually shown you proof. I mean, we don't have a psychiatrist here, but I think we've actually shown you some concrete proof that Anthony Dubé just might be a little crazy. No footprints in the dust. You've heard about the dust on top of the tanning bed and how significant this was. But if there was dust dispersed across the tanning bed, wouldn't it have been disturbance in the dust patterns? I mean, you would think it would fall pretty evenly across the tanning bed, not just on a certain part. And it's significant enough that he makes a note of it. But wouldn't there be footprints in it or the outlines of feet in it if the dust had anything to do with the dust coming off the wall? No fingerprints on the wall. Again, reasonable doubt. Is the evidence or lack of evidence? You cannot look over that wall. You heard that from the deputy. He, of course, tries to skirt around it with, I don't recall. Which I should have asked him the question. Can you say you don't recall and you actually do recall?
Aww.
He would agree. That's the same thing as lying. Because it is the same thing as lying. How could he picture himself being up there, leaning against the wall? He remembers the other things so well, but he can't remember himself leaning against the wall when it's literally impossible to look over that wall. And we showed you the photographs without touching it. Because he's doing everything he can to help the prosecutor. That's his job. He's doing his job. And so we know that the wall is a printable surface. Could have got prints, all had oils come out of our hands. If this man touched that wall in any way, they could have tested it for DNA. Oh, that would have cost $1,000. Oh, maybe. Wow, that's a lot of money compared to 4 days of a jury trial, to incarcerating an innocent man for a couple of years for something he is, that he didn't do. What's the expense difference? Oh, he's doing us a favor, though, saving us money. Laura Campbell's testimony. You heard her. That he checks her in. Does it make any sense that he would check her in, and that 30 seconds later, that he's going, within 30 seconds later, he's going to go and look over the wall at this Anthony Dubé. With the customer, let's just say, we forget about the presumption of innocence, we go with the presumption of guilt. But then maybe he says that he would do that if he was this kind of person. And then after he does it, just go across the hall and just be cleaning the tanning booth, the tanning bed. I mean, it's so inherently illogical that it's ridiculous, is what it is. And see, Anthony Dubé, he doesn't know Laura Campbell's out there. Because we do know from the testimony of Paul Honkin that he sees Tammy Waters go back there. And he knows what she's going back there for. He also knows what room she's going back to. Because Brian tells him, or he's right across the hall. So he knows that door is closed. So what does he do? He waits for that door to open, waits for her to leave, gives her some time. Brian's back there cleaning, goes back up front, and Laura Campbell comes in, but he doesn't know. He thinks it's empty, you see. And so now there's nobody here to disprove his accusations. So him being the good sociopath he is, he walks out, he's dressed, he doesn't know that Laura's up front, and finds Brian and just starts screaming and making his accusations. Little does he know that somebody's out front that he just talked to 30 seconds ago. Little does he know that. And so, and the prosecutor calls her. And I appreciate that's the only decent thing she's done, as far as being fair, is to call her. But she knew that I was going to call her, and she didn't. Because the 30 seconds to 60 seconds is a very important fact, which makes this, these accusations make even less sense now that we know that fact. And Anthony Dubé, right, she says not 2 minutes. I mean, it's 30 to 60 seconds. That's what she writes to the police officer. Of course, they try to, maybe get her to say something different with this whole 2 minutes nonsense. A sociopath. Let's see if we saw any of these character traits in Mr. Dubé. Glibness and superficial charm. Manipulative and cunning. They never recognize the rights of others and see their self-serving behaviors as permissible. They appear to be charming, yet are covertly hostile and domineering, seeing their victims as merely an instrument to be used. They may dominate and humiliate their victims. Grandiose sense of self. Pathological lying. Has no problem lying coolly and easily, as it is almost impossible for them to be truthful on a consistent basis. Can get caught up in a complex belief about their own powers and abilities, extremely convincing, and even able to pass a lie detector test. Now, if that is not Anthony Dubé, I'm not sure what is. Lack of remorse or shame or guilt. A deep-seated rage which is split off and repressed at their core. Does not see others around them as people, but only as targets and opportunities. Instead of friends, they have victims and accomplices who end up as victims. That end always justifies the means, and they let nothing stand in their way. Callousness, lack of empathy, unable to empathize with the pain of their victims, having only contempt for others. Feelings of distress and readily taking advantage of them. Irresponsibility, unreliability, not concerned about wrecking others' lives and dreams, oblivious and indifferent to the devastation they cause. Do not accept blame themselves, but blame others, even for acts they obviously committed. That's a profile of a sociopath, folks. And if Anthony Dubé doesn't fit that, from what we saw for 3 hours on that stand, complete lack of any desire to tell the truth, only a desire to tell you, just to say whatever he wanted. Because some of this stuff didn't even make sense. I mean, not knowing the difference between an opening statement of voir dire and claiming because I'm so young. I mean, we're going to give you a lot of those examples as soon as Anita does her job in helping me out with that. That'll be for later this afternoon. And then we heard from Paul Honkin, and you heard about his investigation, how he called them. This is his business. And these people are threatening to destroy his business, his retirement. It's what they're threatening to destroy. They're not simply just looking for they're not looking for any kind of neutrality. They're looking to destroy this person from the outset. And how do we know that? Because they make sure that he has to get suspended or terminated. Like the threats, if you don't fire him, we're going to put this on Facebook and Twitter. Can you imagine what these false accusations would do to Paul Honkinen's business? Would destroy it. Would put him out of business. And so, but he's conscientious. He's trying to be objective, even though he knows this person and doesn't believe what he's hearing. But he wants to be extremely cautious. And so what does he do? He suspends him, and then conducts his own investigation. And he does a lot more than this police officer does. I mean, he calls Tammy Waters, and you heard from Tammy Waters that she saw these two people up at the front desk before she went back to her booth. Which, if you look at the business record that was admitted, that makes perfect sense for the time that because remember, she doesn't go there for a little while because he had to get her set up, he had to get her information, he had to get her driver's license, all that kind of stuff in order to get her in the computer, and gave him a free gift certificate for bringing a new client. All that kind of stuff had to be done. It takes a couple minutes, and then they send her back, and so she's there at the same time and sees him. And so, but after his investigation, which is much more thorough than the deputies, because he's found the deputy around. He looks up at the dust. There's nothing unusual about it. Disturbed. If he pulled it over, then there would be there'd be definite marks in the dust with his hands. If he blew dust over to the other side from breathing, the dust would be on the other side. But again, it's his choice not to take a picture. It's his choice to ask you to trust him. And Paul, he told you the kind of person Brian is, the kind of employee he is at $7.40 an hour, going on his own time to corporate classes to learn more about tanning, working, picking up a lot of shifts, trying to make some money, trusted him completely. His register's never short, complete, because this is the employee somebody dreams about having, especially in a minimum wage job where it's real hard to get people that are completely reliable and dependable to bust their ass for you as a business owner. But still, he tried to take a police officer's approach. And he told you about his interview with Brian, or interrogation, whatever you want to call it. And this is not, words are words. Anybody can say anything they want. I've been a cop for 16 years. I read body language. I try to say what's really going on with this person. Everything about him told me he was being honest. And there's no evidence to support anything. Anything. And so he gives him his job back. But that doesn't last long, because that all comes to a screeching halt when good old Deputy Neat tricks him into coming out on a Friday night so he can throw him in jail for a couple of days. Teach him a little lesson about not cooperating, even though he was very cooperative. We didn't see the interrogation video. And had it been my burden of proof, to prove his innocence, we would have sat here for a couple hours. But, since it's not, and as you know, it was nicer of her to stipulate. So what? We can sit here for another couple hours to further confirm what we already know? Is that what the purpose of it would be? I don't think it, again, if it would help their side, they would have put it in. And that's why we have this thing called the burden of proof. And so, had it been my burden of proof, obviously I would have put it in there. But since it's not, I didn't. And, what more good would it to do you to watch that video for an hour and a half? To know what you already know. And finally, the government's desperate acts. I mean, when I say desperate acts, what I mean by that is, I mean their desperateness to protect Anthony Dubé at all costs. Their desperateness to try to minimize everything that they've done. Oh, Deputy Denis, you put all the facts in your police report? Not all of them. Oh, that would explain why you didn't put this fact about the tanning bed being down. Oh, of course. Do people always tell you the truth? No, they don't. I mean, I don't even know what the purpose of her redirect examination was. I mean, frankly, it was sort of, I don't know, ridiculous. It was sort of ridiculous.